Hello, seekers and knowers. This channel is for the questioners of a world turned upside down, those who want to know, and those who already see. If you ever wondered what the fuck is going on here, this channel is for you. My name is Asha Asteria. Now let's get into it. All right, hey, we are back. Welcome to the Gnostic Viewpoint. My name is Asha, and tonight we are talking about karma. We're going to talk about my view of karma and how I believe that it works, what it means, what it is, you know, what it does, all of those things. I was inspired to do this topic because I've seen a few people online saying, based on what's going on in the world at this time, that they don't believe in karma, which is fine. Nobody has to believe in anything. Um, one thing I really want to express on this channel is that you are free to believe, accept, seek understanding with in whatever way is good for you or that you feel comfortable. You're not there's no I don't believe that there is anything that you have to do unless you feel called to do it, and even then you can choose not to. Um, so it's understandable that people don't believe in karma, but their reasoning in saying so is due to the fact that, there's a lot of people who hold a lot of power, and it doesn't seem to matter whatever vicious thing that they do or whatever happens, they get away with it. You know, it doesn't seem to affect them. And they tend to go on and do even worse things. So I'm not gonna say I've never had a similar thought before. I've had people do me wrong, and it appears from what I see from the outside looking in that they're not being punished, quote unquote, enough, or they're not miserable enough, or whatever I think they should be going through for whatever they did to me. Um, but and so I understand, but I think that viewpoint of karma comes from the fact that the concept is very popular, which means that it's popular far beyond the Buddhist Hindu background that it has. And in that background, I just wanted to give a quick definition. Um, it is considered of the principle of cause and effect, which means that individuals. It says here that individuals. I just looked it up on Wikipedia just to get a basic understanding. An individual's intent or action um, is the cause that influences their future, which is the effect. Good intent and good deeds contribute to good karma and happier rebirths, while bad intent and bad deeds contribute to bad karma and worse rebirths. Uh, in some scriptures, however, there is no link between rebirth and karma. So, firstly, karma deals with the principle of reincarnation. So, your karma, what you receive, is not particularly limited to what what happens in this life. Um, we are on a wheel called samsara that the enlightened ones want to eventually get off of. Uh, it's the wheel of reincarnation of birth, life, death, rebirth, on and on and on until you gain a certain level of consciousness or enlightenment, which allows you to ascend out of this, uh, off of the cycle of rebirth. You which is what I consider an ascension or a resurrection, when you no longer have to be born again into this dimension. But considering that we are energy, I don't think that you completely cease to exist. I mean, honestly, according to the Buddhist perspective, you go and join. Um, you it's basically you reach anatman, which is basically non-self, and you go and join the basic universal consciousness. So that's basically what the goal is to become so free of your ego that you are no longer connected to it. You're no longer connected to self, and or your perception of yourself, really, which is basically what your ego is. And you move on to become part of the universal consciousness, which flows through everything and is undifferentiated, the spiritual realm. So now, for me personally, I believe that there are multiple dimensions and different levels of consciousness that you can go to, different worlds that you can go to, worlds that you can create. Um, and but I do believe there is a non-consciousness, so to speak, or the universal consciousness, where you're just kind of absorbed back into to pure spirit, where you're just pure energy, unembodied, which is an eternal peace, our eternal oneness, where there's no time, there's no sense of time, there's no sense of space, you know. So, so in short, that's basically what karma is. It would be the deeds that keep you from uh, getting off the wheel, from ascending off the wheel of samsara or rebirths. So that is the basic. That is, and please feel free to add to this or refine my understanding in the comments if you have more knowledge um, about this topic. I'm definitely open to learning more or sharing more information, or learning more, whatever. So, so yeah. Um, but like I've said in uh, my previous video that I think spirituality is open because of how, to me, when I say spirit, it means energy. Okay, spirit and energy are about one and the same for me. Um, so and you have um there's two types of energy. You have kinetic energy, you have potential energy. So you have energy that is already kind of embodied and is already in movement. That will be kinetic, and then you have potential, which is non-embodied, just energy that has not been that does not produce physicality. That's art. Is not. It's basically, I guess it would be considered like dark energy. Um, and to me, that's the place from which you use your, you know, that will be like similar to like an akashic realm where you're able to use imagination and thought, the potential of something before it actually manifests into physical reality. So when I talk about spirituality and being connected with spirit, I'm talking about just energy. Um, so anyway, so with this understanding, uh, what I believe karma to be, I do believe we reincarnate. I do, due to us being energy that's not created or destroyed, I do believe we reincarnate. I do believe we experience different lives. I think that we all have a physical body, um, We have a soul that may be activated or non activated, and we all have spirit. We all have energy. We all come from an eternal sea of energy, and incarnate. But I think that, but that midpoint between physical incarnation and the spirit unseen realm from which we come from, I think the middle point is in our soul, is how we choose what we choose to incarnate as. Um, I believe that upon our death in this physical realm, our soul is taken from us, our basically escapes from us and moves on to different dimensions based on what it is that soul wants to experience. Um, what it is that that soul wants to learn, how it can refine itself so that it can become closer and closer to the highest expression of itself, which would be pure, undifferentiated energy. So, in a way, this is partly why I feel like there are multiple dimensions. I think where we are on Earth is one dimension, and there are other dimensions that could be mirrored dimensions, um, different levels to it, different vibrations to different dimensions. There's different worlds. There's even different planets that move, that experience time in a different way. Time is very much connected to um, time is connected because okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But time is connected to our incarnation here on earth, obviously. Uh, this is the realm of time, where through time we're born, we grow, we decay, we die. Um, and I don't want to, like I said, I have a lot on my mind, and I'm gonna try to not go too far off, even though this stuff is all connected. And that's the beauty to me of studying spirituality, is when you start to see these connections naturally just flow into each other. Whenever I think of time, I think of Saturn. I think of the god Saturn, or Kronos. Okay, he was known anciently as Kronos, and Kronos is connected to time, chronological. All right, it was because of Saturn that Uranus, and Gaia, which is the Earth, were separated. It was the sickle of Saturn that separated them, which created time and space. He created space. The same concept of divine counterparts is in Kemet with Nut and Geb. Nut being, the considered the sky or the heavens, and Geb being the earth. And they have to be separated in order for us to experience life on in this realm. So time is a huge part of things. So anyway, like I said, when our time is up here, when we die, our soul frees itself of this body that it carries, and it moves on. Okay, and this is where, most of the time, I believe a lot of souls are trapped here. So most of the time, until you find a way to escape this Earth's matrix that we're in, I think this you get stuck here. Okay, and this conversation can veer off into the demiurge, the Gnostic concept of the demiurge, and the world that the demiurge created, the imperfect world that the demiurge created, and the desire to trap souls for their to harvest their energy. And I talked about in the last video I uploaded, my first video on the channel. I already discussed the desire of the God of the Bible to um, force energy out of everybody pretty much on this earth to all to worship him, so that he as an entity, as a god, gains more power. So I again, I see this as connected to that demiurge that created an imperfect world, and due to its egotistical nature, wanted to be endlessly worshipped and draw and harvest energy. And in order to do that, you have to have beings, created beings and souls here that can give that energy to keep this God alive. So our souls, many of us, I believe, are is trapped here in this particular earth dimension, where we're experiencing lessons continuously until we learn a lesson. Okay. um Saturn, that I mentioned before, Chronos, being the one who kind of allowed time to begin on earth, um is also, that ST is also connected to the god Set. All right. Set was one of the children of Nut and Geb. His brothers, his it was five of them, I believe. Asar, Aset, which is also known as Osiris and Isis in Greek tradition, but their names are Asar and Aset. Then you have Set. Then you have Haru the Elder, and then you have Nebhet, which was the counterpart of Set. And Aset and Asar were counterparts of each other. So Set, is one of the children of Nut and Geb, just like Saturn was one of the children of Arnos um and of Gaia, Arnos and Gaia. All right. Um so with this energy of time, because in time, because let's just get back to where did these lessons come from? How do we even get these lessons that we have to learn? Because that for me is my understanding of karma. We reincarnate to learn lessons. I don't see it as we have a good or bad thing that we did, so we get a good or bad thing. I think that's based on the Judeo-Christian organized religion of a God that judges your actions and deems them good or bad. To me, good and bad is subjective. With the easiest and quickest example being, if you steal something, if you're just stealing for your own personal gain and whatever, then that's a bad thing. But if you're stealing something to eat, then it's a good thing. Good and bad is subjective. If you're lying to get away with something reprehensible or detrimental that you did, that's one thing. If you're lying to protect, um, Anne Frank, who's in your attic, then you're doing a good thing. Everything, as I said in my last video, everything has its time and its place. So what may be bad in one sense is good in another sense. It's subjective. So everything is subjective and can be based on circumstances and intent. So to me, there is no one for one. You did good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. Because firstly, the actions can be judged. Some people are going to consider it bad to steal or lie no matter what the circumstances are. So it's going to be so subjective based on who's viewing it. So to me, it's not necessarily and also, I also believe there's a certain connectedness in our own consciousness. Our own consciousness and what we perceive to be good or bad also sends out a certain energy, because again, this is all about energy. Like, so the energy or the vibration of the energy, the frequency of the energy is also going to be based on how we perceive it, our own selves. A lot of people don't get these negative consequences that you think they deserve because they don't perceive what they've done as a negative. And if they don't perceive it that way, If it's true that our mind creates our reality, how we perceive something is going to also have a hand in how it manifests, or how it manifests in your own life. This is why they have come up, this is why people say the Lulu is the Salulu. If you want to get a certain result, if you convince your mind that this is the reality and this is what it is and this is what you want, if you've convinced yourself to, like, for instance, I don't do a whole lot of manifesting and attracting the way I used to. I used to spend a lot of time consciously manifesting and attracting um, different things. But one thing I will do is program my reality with my own thoughts and beliefs. So if I want to always be in a safe and advantageous situation, then I program my reality mentally for that to always be the case. No matter what happens, no matter what decisions I make, or no matter what direction I go, I will always end up in a situation that is advantageous for me and for my children and the people I love. You know, because and this is my program reality. So because I'm, am the energy or the God over my own life, I can program my reality however I want to program it. I can see it however I want to see it. And that can become real because of the energy I place into that vision, into that thought. So, um, this is why magic work is simply energy work. It's just manipulating the energy so that you receive the outcome that you want to receive. So that's one of the reasons why people who you think have done wrong don't get what you believe they should get, is because of their way of thinking and viewing themselves creates the reality that they want to see. And your energy may not be strong enough to combat their energy of what it is that they want and how they believe they should get it. Because a lot of people who are very, let's say narcissistic or egotistical, feel very much deserving of whatever they get, no matter how they get it. They have an entitlement toward it. So they feel like if they have wronged someone, they feel like that person should have been wrong because, oh, they were too gullible, or they weren't smart enough, or they weren't fast enough. I'm more the survival of the fittest. I'm more fit to have this. I deserve this. And so because this is the way that they are programming their reality with that energy and with that thought frequency, then it becomes real for them. Okay? So this is kind of where I feel like to sit and to look at karma as just simply good actions and bad actions, and you're going to get good because you did good and you're going to get bad because you did bad, kind of takes away from a few other factors that go into it. I think is organized religion that has us believing that we have um, entities that are constantly watching us, and judging our behavior. And so, because of this entity that stands outside of us somewhere judging our behavior, then they're going to say, no, that was a bad thing. You shouldn't have done that. And then you're going to get punished. But in the truthful, reality doesn't show us that. We're not seeing that in our actual reality because that's not real unless you believe it to be. Now, if you believe that to be real, then now you've programmed your reality for that to be real. So, whatever this outside observer is doing or thinking, you're taking your own self out of yourself to observe yourself and your own actions. Then you deem those actions good or bad, right or wrong, a sin or a blessing or whatever. And so now you're creating the you're receiving what it is that you want to see. You're seeing what it is that you expect to see, because this is how you think the world works. So for you, your world works that way because you may believe that there's some outside God who is judging you, judging the thing you did. Oh, you had sex with someone that wasn't your husband. No, that's a fornication right there. You can't do that. That's bad. And then so now you expect some kind of bad thing to happen to you as a result of that, or you expect to be forgiven whenever it is that you choose to pray to forgiveness. So my point is that what the first law of the Kabbalion, which is a book I'm about to kind of reference again, because the Kabbalion, you can find it free online. The Kabbalion is a great read. Period. It just is. And it sets up seven basic laws of the universe, okay? Or principles of the universe, I should say, rather than laws. Things are not set in stone in that kind of way. These are principles. Um, but the first law of the Kabbalion is all is mental. Everything is mental, meaning that your mind is the very first. I mean, there is no existence without thinking it into existence. Even biblically, you have, the word being spoken and it creating reality, it creating physicality. So you're taking potential energy and moving it to kinetic energy, making it move, taking something that seemed as if it was still and without movement, and then creating it, making it move through your words and through your thoughts. So this is going to kind of almost, this is a basic fundamental part of the universe before anything else can be even placed upon it. So how you think and how you speak and how you view things is ultimately going to be a reflection, of what actually occurs in your life. So that is, to me, one of the reasons why these people that are bad don't get the result or the outcome that you think they should get. They just don't believe that. They don't believe they deserve that. They believe they deserve the best. And because of that fundamental belief, they get it. So that's one of those things. Um Also, as I said, I think that this particular dimension that we reside in is ruled by Saturn, Set, Satan. I mean, even with the Asarian drama, you have Set, uh, his brother Asar was king, and Set was his queen. And so what Set did was cut Asar's body up in multiple pieces, and well, first he entombed him um, in a casket, which I kind of go into. Like, I have my own book, The Serpent of Shakti. I go into this story in great detail, the different ways that you can view it. But to me, entombing Asar's body in a casket is sending him into a physical reality. Um, so, and then, he was also, he was recovered, and he was also cut to pieces as well, which means his consciousness was cut up into pieces, making him forget who he was. He had to be remembered, put back together by Aset for them to then be able to create Haru, which is the soul, which is for me, or how I perceive it, the embodied soul, the soul that is activated. Because I believe we have souls. I'm not going to say we all do, though. I'm going to be completely for real. The jury's out on whether I believe we all have souls on this earth. But let's just say we all do. Okay? We're all made of the same things. I do feel like a lot of souls are just unactivated. A lot of people are walking around with a complete lack of consciousness, a complete lack of awareness, a complete lack of where they are, why they're here, how they got here. They're just living and nothing connects. It's just each day is a new day. There's no connection. And so this is why they're able to continue to live the same thing, do the same things, have the same issues, generational curses that, what affected the grandparents, affect the children, and then affect the grandchildren, because no one can put together the fact that they're spinning around the same cycle. They're on the wheel of samsara, learning the same lessons and going through the same things over and over because nobody has learned it yet. Nobody has discovered what the missing piece is yet. And so it just keeps on continuing as a loop. Because again, we have Saturn, Chronos. What is our, everything spins. Everything spins. We rotate. As a planet, we rotate. We revolve around the sun. Us rotating creates our days and our nights. We revolve around the sun, which creates our planets. You know what I mean? Day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, on and on and on. We spin and spin and spin in circles, going around the same type of thing. But every time we go around, it's just a little bit different. The weight gets a little heavier for some of us. And for some of us who are ascending, the weight may get a little bit lighter. But at the end of the day, we're still in this death and rebirth is another cycle. So with Saturn being connected to time, he is also connected to karma, which let's revisit karma, which is cause and effect, which is another law of the Kabbalion, which is the law of causation. And this law basically and simply says every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Okay? So again, cause and effect. With time, you see the effect of a particular cause. Now, going back to the one, the person who doesn't seem to be receiving any karma, there's always an effect for a cause. Always. Okay. Um, I don't feel like that needs an example. There's always an effect for a cause. It's just like what they say about what is that, the butterfly effect, the butterfly wing. The butterfly flaps his wing, and on the other side of the world, a tsunami happens. Okay, now obviously we know that is not the case because we'd be living in an endless plane of tsunamis. But let's just say, tsunami is just a wave, so it could be a small wave. You know what I mean? But the point is that every little thing that happens creates a rift or a and let's just see it as the throwing a pebble into the pond. Okay, and that pebble, you see the waves going out, further out. Okay, that's our actions. Everything we do creates this ripple effect. Okay, when we talk about the people who are the most evil, quote unquote, okay, or they do the most damage, there's a cause. There's a cause and there's an effect. There's an effect on what happens, what they do. Like, when certain people get voted into office and they pass certain laws, these laws affect the people. Okay. um so that effect, it does something. If you take away, the money that a person believed that they were going to have, and they're not able to buy as much food as they needed to buy, or their children go hungry, these effects can go on and on. There's many different effects. Everything that's being done is creating an effect. If someone hurts you and they create trauma in your life, that's going to affect the way you go through life. That's going to affect how open you are, how trusting you are, how willing you are to let someone in. That's going to affect the friends that you attract to you, whether you even want to have friends, whether you even want to go out, whether you even want to have experiences anymore. Um, these things that are done have an effect. Now, the issue comes for me is that, in a natural world, this a cause would just go uninterrupted into its effect. Um, and then things will circle back around again. You will see the effect. You will learn from the effect. You would modify the behavior, which creates a different cause next time around. Okay. Um, so you see that you've done this thing. You see the outcome wasn't so good for you. So you're like, okay, well, let me tighten up my methods so that the next time I try this thing, I can do it better. You know? Um, and so to me, there's a kind of loop that comes in with karma, with the cause and effect. Okay. The effect is going to determine the causes in another situation, in a future situation. And we will hope that as we are developing souls, or we are awakening even more and more, that we will hope that we would have better, we would make better choices. Let's just say that we would make better choices. We would choose better actions. you know, more beneficial actions, that benefit not just us, but the people around us, that we would learn from our mistakes. Well, the thing is, some people do not learn from their mistakes. They don't give a damn. They don't care about the effects. Again, especially the more egotistical, the more narcissistic someone is, the less they care about the effect. Regardless of whether of the effect happens, they're just going to continue to do whatever it is that they want to do. They don't live in a world in their mind. They're living in a more linear perception of time where they're just going forward. No matter what happens, they're just moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. A lot of times they don't want anything to come back to them because they don't necessarily want that effect. So they don't even acknowledge when that effect happens, when it is, especially because if it's detrimental or causes them embarrassment or whatever the case, they're not trying to learn from it so that they could do better. They just want to go forward and run from it and try to escape karma. So they're trying to escape their karma. The thing is, though, we are all connected. We're all connected. So for me, whatever energy somebody has given to me, this is just my way of thinking, okay? I'm not going to tell you to adopt my way of thinking, all right? Because my way of thinking, I'm very Mars ruled. As an Aries with a Scorpio rising, I'm very Mars ruled. And my Saturn is in Libra as well. So for me, I feel like whatever is done to me, the person who has done that thing should receive similar to what they gave me. I don't believe in a concept of, because as I said earlier, we have what in the natural world, what should be a cause that becomes an effect. What organized religion often does is cut right through the center of what would naturally happen. So if someone has hurt you or done something to you, you can choose to react, respond to that in kind, which may show them something, teach them something, make them aware of what they've done. It's just something to aid in their awareness. Now, that's not to say it will work because they would have to be open to that. But there should be some awareness of a transgression that was done. But we are taught that we need to forgive, okay? Now, okay, before we even get to forgiveness, like I said, you have two options. You can respond in kind, but to me, the other option would be to just simply let it go. Um, and a lot of people choose that, to let the universe naturally do what it does. Now, to me, I don't think the universe works in that way where it's just going to do any particular thing you think it should do. We are the universe, okay? We are the energy of this universe. Like, we collectively are who refine each other. We learn through each other. We see ourselves in others. We mirror each other. Okay. It is our interaction with each other that makes us more conscious of who we are. This is why the idea of having relationships, from all of our relationships, we learn something, whether it's what we don't want to do or who we don't want to be. That may be a denied aspect of ourselves, or it could be something that we would like to aspire to, something we would like to become. We learn from people. We love people. We create connections with people. And then we also lose people. That's the basis of our world. It's so much based upon our connection and interaction with people. We can't even come into this world without a connection. We're connected to our mother before anyone else. So whatever it is she experiences, whatever she goes through, while she carries you, it becomes your experience. It's a part of who you are. You're connected through DNA to both of your parents and to everybody that created them. And we're ultimately connected through DNA to everybody else, which means that we are one, you know. Um, so I feel that it is a loving act, you know, or it's a beneficial act to mirror back to someone what they've given me. To me, it is a way for them to see themselves outside of themselves and to possibly be able to grow from this, you know. And then once I've done that, then I'm able to freely let it go because I've put to bed this particular issue. I no longer have to be angry. I no longer have to burn inside because of what someone has done. If something needs to be said, if someone's hurt me, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say it. It's just the way it is. I'm either going to speak it vocally or I'm going to write it, in an email. I'm going to put it in a text. I'm going to tell you what the fuck you did. I'm going to tell you where you fucked up at and where you had me fucked up at. All right. I'm going to confront you with your actions. And I would hope that somebody would confront me with mine and say, this is where you fucked up at. This is where you had me fucked up at, so that I can learn and I can grow and I can become more refined as a soul in this incarnation that I'm in. That's what I'm primarily here for. I'm here to refine myself. I'm here to grow. I'm here to become the best possible version of me, you know, based on my own understanding of where I can ascend to. So I don't run away from responsibility or accountability for what I've done. To say that I'm running away is to think that I could run away, to think that, that I'm not a part of this cycle of life that we have, and think that I can get myself out of here and never get any consequences or never receive anything for the energy that I put out and that somebody else received. Okay? So for me, I let it be known. I don't just let things go. I don't just forgive without someone asking for forgiveness. If I'm going to give my energy of forgiveness, the person needs to show me that they want that. If they're not showing me they want that, I'm not necessarily going to forgive. I will confront the situation and then I will let it go. Once I've confronted it, once I've said what I needed to say, or done what I feel like needed to be done, once I've done that, then I can move on. I don't need to be weighed down by it any further. I don't need to. And then whatever trauma I gain from the situation, I'm going to work on healing that within myself, because again, as I try to refine myself, my desire is to learn my lessons, basically to find out, why did my soul choose to incarnate here? What is it that my soul wanted to experience and wanted to learn that made it say, I'm going to come back to this earth playground and interact with these people and go through this shit and go through this bullshit and wake up every day and work and do all of these things and take care of my kids and take care of my family and go through grief and go through heartbreak and all of this stuff. Why did I consider it worth it to come here again and do this again? What is it that I'm trying to get out of this life? I also believe the term karma is connected to kama, which is another term that deals with desire. Kama is desire. All right. And even in Greek mythology, Eros is a god who is the child of Mars and Venus. Actually, Mars and Venus, they would have had Cupid. So let's say Aries and Aphrodite, they had Eros, but Eros is also considered, and Eros is desire, connected to the word erotic or eroticism. Um, but Eros is also a primordial god. Okay, Eros is also a god that existed before. Primordial gods are the ones that exist before time. Before we understand time to have existed. So it's very fundamental. To me, karma is connected to kama. I think that we also come here with desires. There's a desire to incarnate here. There's something that we want. Some of us came for true love. Some of us came to have children. Some of us came to get a career that we wanted. Some of us came to get rich. Some of us came for whatever reasons. And I believe that it is our desire that brings us back a lot of times. Not only our lessons, but our desires. Now, in order to truly move off the wheel, I believe part of it is to lose your desire, um, to let go of your desire, because desire is a state of lack, comes from a state of lack. To desire something is to say you don't have it. is to say that you lack this thing, when the truth is there is no lack. You know, you are everything. As I say, you are connected to everything. You are everything. You are energy. You are one with all things. There's nothing that you lack. You have everything. But the human experience, the ego experience, makes it so that we don't recognize that we already have everything. We believe that we have, if we just get this thing, we're going to be happy. If we just make this accomplishment, we're going to finally feel this fulfillment. We're going to finally feel like we have it, you know. So it keeps us on a wheel, like a hamster on a wheel, chasing after this thing that even once it's fulfilled, it never quite brings the fulfillment that you expect that it would bring. So, a good part of being able to move on is to lose the desire, lose the feeling that you need to keep on chasing something in order to be complete. You are already complete. So there's nothing, and anything that you feel that you may lack exists within you. You know, this is why the sages, this is why the Christ Yeshua figure would say, you know, heaven is within. The kingdom of heaven is within. Everything that you believe is out there in the heavens exists within you. You already are that. You're not lacking anything, you know. So, bringing this back around again to the person who does not seem to get their karma, a lot of times the ones who don't get their karma, or that you don't believe get their karma, are very narcissistic, very egotistical. This is why they don't feel, they're running, like I said, they're running from their causes. Whatever they cause, they're running from it so that they don't have to face the effect. And they've crafted their universe within their mind to support whatever it is they're running toward, or whatever it is that they want to get, whatever it is that they desire. Um, those types who are entitled in that way are full of desire, constant desire, and nothing satiates that desire. This is why you have such greed in the world. This is why you have, you know, billionaires who are still chasing more and more money. What are you chasing money for when you have what would allow you to buy damn pretty much anything? These people are buying fucking islands, you know, lands. They're trading lands. They're trading people's whole lives. What is in you? What is this hunger in you to where you still have to continue to chase, continue to run, continue to, you know, run away from your causes and run toward your desires endlessly? You know, these are entities that are not going to leave the wheel. They don't want to leave the wheel. They want whatever the ego says that they should have, or whoever the ego says that they should be. There is never a time that they're going to rest and feel satiated by what it is that they've gained. Because every time they gain something that they think is going to bring their peace externally, all it does is reinforce the fact that they are not fulfilled, they have not gotten peace, and they still have more to gain, because they don't know where heaven is. The kingdom of heaven is blind to them. They're blind to it. They don't know where it is. They don't know it exists within. Because to go within and to find the kingdom of heaven within requires self-awareness. It requires self-reflection. It requires you looking at your ego and seeing how your ego has been a detriment to not only yourself but the people around you. It requires taking responsibility and accountability for yourself and for your actions, and really being able to look in the mirror, you know, doing that shadow work, and really being able to look in the mirror and see yourself for exactly who you are. And that's very hard to do. You know, we always love to give ourselves excuses for the things that we do and why we've done it, and fact of, okay, I did this because of this or that, or, you know, my parents showed me this, or I was raised this way or that way, you know. But as I said, our desire is to, you know, ironically, our desire is to refine our effects by our causes. Like, you know, if you change your cause and your reasoning or your way of doing things, you change the effect of what comes out. And once that does come out, you're able to refine that by deciding, okay, this was beneficial, it was soul enriching, so I can keep that going, you know, or this didn't quite land the way I felt it would land. So let me refine that and become even better. We're here to alchemize ourselves at the end of the day. Um, ooh, let me write that down. That's a great video to do. Alchemy, the path of alchemy. Okay. So alchemy is taking the prima material, the base material of who we are, and becoming the ultima materia, like the ultimate material, which is, metaphysic or metaphorically gold. Okay. So we're taking what the base is, which some people would say coal, some people would say, shit, you know, the shit that we are as a human, the base and foundational uh egotistical entity that we are, and refining it through a path, through cycles, or what's the through stages, I should say, stages that then end up creating our highest expression on this particular planet. All right. And again, this process is done within. A lot of people, especially in our society as it exists today, a lot of people need an audience. They need to be seen. Whatever progress they make, whatever gains they have, whatever goals they accomplish, it needs to be seen by everybody. In order for it to be real, for a lot of people, it's not even real until you share it on social media or something. It's not even real to you until someone observes it and someone else sees it. Um, but the truth is, the real work is done when nobody can see. Um, it's done, it is within the unseen heavenly realm that exists within you. That's where the real work is done. That's where the real soul work is done. And that's where the lessons are learned. And that is how you refine yourself to, which also refines your actions, which also in turn refines your karma. All right. So I would say, um, and this is something that you have to do. This is why the Christ energy is not uh, someone else out there. It's not a Messiah or a Savior who's going to save you. You are save yourself. Save yourself. You are a savior of self. You have to save yourself. You have to awaken. You have to only, your awakening is only based on your desire, not even a desire, because to me, the more you desire it, the further you push it away. Um, it's about you being, about you simply being, about you seeing, about you knowing, you know, um, it's about you becoming more self-aware and becoming more conscious, you know. Um, and in that case, you can walk over the circumstances of your life. You can walk on water. You can walk right over the circumstances of your life, become and still and come out unscathed. And then you also use the laws of the universe to place yourself exactly where you need to be, because that's where you're going to be anyway. You're going to always end up exactly where you need to be. So, you know, just know that that's what it is, and just live in that knowledge, live in that awareness. All right. And this is how you put yourself on a path of, you know, moving off of samsara, if that's what you want. Now, if you actually have desires and you do want to come back in another life to be rich or find your true love or whatever, you could do that. I wouldn't necessarily advise it, because I feel like I mean, well, listen, do whatever you want to do. Do as thou wilt, right? Do whatever you want. But a lot of times what we think we're gonna get is not what we end up getting. You know, Saturn, Set energy, Satan energy, just like in the Satan figure when he shows up, which is just Hebrew word shaitan, which means adversary, adversary, child, adversary, adversary, the adversary. Okay, which is within you as well. Okay, you are everything. So you are the God, you are the Satan, you are your own best friend, and you are your own worst enemy until you learn how to balance that energy. Okay, because as your own best friend, you could just be hyping yourself up off of some bullshit. Sometimes a best friend could be detrimental to you just in the simple fact that they don't call you out on your behavior. They're gonna support anything you do. But then you also have your worst enemy, which is going to be critical of anything you do. Whatever gains, whatever happens, there's going to be a criticism or a cutting down of or whatever. There's a point in the middle where you recognize exactly where you are, what you've done, and how you can make it better, or how you could just sit with it and be okay with it and just be at ease with it. There's no need to tear yourself down, and there's no need to overly hype yourself either. You can exist in a state of balance, which is the middle path. Okay, that's what Christ follows, is the middle path. Again, a conversation for another day and for another video. Um, but as I was saying, let me not lose my train of thought. Um, you are your own savior. You're the one that's going to resurrect yourself. You're the one that's going to get yourself off the wheel. Okay, you're the one that's going to confront your own adversary. Oh, I was going to say Satan. When the Satan figure does show up in the book of Job, um, the adversary, he comes with a bet, you know, uh, saying that, I bet that if you curse Job, then he will stop. The only reason that he follows you, the God, referring to the God of the Bible, is because you give him all these blessings and all these things. But if you were to stop doing that and you were to basically curse his life, he would turn his back on you and he wouldn't no longer follow you. So the Satan figure is nothing but the devil's advocate. Okay, they come with deals, bets. I bet this, I bet that, I bet you can't accomplish this, I bet you can't do that. Like, what if this, what if that, kind of tugging at your consciousness, making you doubt yourself, which sometimes you need to doubt yourself. Sometimes that's a necessary thing, because I don't want to villainize. Whenever I talk about Saturn, Satan, Set, this entity, which deserves their own video, whenever I talk about Saturn. Saturn is not, in astrology we call that energy um delayed but not denied, okay? Which means that Saturn places obstacles in front of you to make you stronger, to make you more self-aware. Okay? It's not just cursing you because, oh, Satan is always coming after me and trying to do this and that. Like, these personalities that we put on to the gods are just they're just a projection of our own thoughts and fears, ultimately, our own aspirations and fears. So whenever people refer to God, this is the one that's giving them everything and blessing them and always has the best intentions for them, and yada yada yada, everything good God gets the credit and the glory for. Whereas everything bad is because Satan is coming to take this away from you, or doing this and doing that. These are projections given to you from the Christian religion, pretty much. Um, Ways of viewing these energies. You can choose that way, or you can choose to view it in a different way. And Saturn, with its energy, is just because it is a god of lessons, of karma, of time. In time, the more you face a challenge, the stronger you become at facing that challenge. Okay, it's just like working a muscle. It's just like working out. The more that you do it, and you don't want to work out. Nobody is going to work out and do something. Nobody's going to take a 5 pound dumbbell, even though you probably could. You probably could work that out and actually get some results over time. But most people are not going to just start off with a 5 pound dumbbell weightlifting and stick with that the whole time. In order, we already understand, because we have that Saturnian part of us. We already understand that it's going to be challenges that make you stronger. That's why Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Okay. um Mars is about competition and drive and growth. So in order to do that, you need obstacles. In order for you to be the strongest you can be, you can get stronger by adding more weight to your weights. And as you get stronger, you add more, and you add more, and you become able to do things you never believed that you can do. You become able to overcome things you never thought you could overcome. The challenges that we're given, the obstacles that are placed in our way, are there to make us stronger, and more able and capable, so that we can again become the highest expression of our, selves in this particular realm, which refines our soul, so that as we go on from this place, as we die to this life that we're in, we can either kick it up a notch and reincarnate and come back around and do this again, or we could say, I got everything out of here. I learned all the lessons I need to learn. Like I've explored everything there is to explore in this dimension. I've done everything there is to do. I've expanded my knowledge so much that there's no need to go back from that. And this is where you get in tarot the world card, and that's where you graduate. And the world card is connected to what? Who? Saturn. Saturn. Okay. That's how you graduate. You got to graduate from Saturn school. This is Saturn school. This is Saturn's playground. All right. And so the lessons are teaching you to graduate and to learn how to respond appropriately to the energy that's given to you, and to discern just exactly how to do that. Saturn is also a planet of discernment. Like I said, Saturn needs its own video. Probably gonna, do some of the other planets too eventually, because these are the archons. So that the archons definitely deserve their own video, uh, so that we can kind of get into that knowledge. But for now, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover about karma, um, and why it is that the people you think deserve it in a certain particular way don't get it in quite the way you think they should. I would suggest this. Firstly, you don't know what they're getting. That's number one. I tell my kids that all the time. Whenever they think someone is thinking something about them, or this person doesn't like me, or this person this and another, they could be right. You could be right. A person may not like you. Everybody is not going to like you. I teach them that everybody is not going to like you. So you're here to find your tribe. You're here to find the ones that do and that want you around. But also, you don't know what they're thinking about you. Honestly, all you know is what you are perceiving, which is usually a projection of your own thoughts onto them. So you don't actually know what they think about you, and you don't know what they really feel about you. And you're kind of treating them in this way, believing they think or feel about you a certain way, which is something that happened to me in my life. I had someone who misperceived, I believe they misperceived the way I was viewing them, and then they spent their time trying to destroy me after that. Really, like they spent their time trying to destroy me. The people who try to destroy me and take from me are usually people who misperceived what it was that I was trying to do, the intent of my words or whatever. They projected their insecurity onto that. And there were times when I was actually just a bitch. Okay, I'm not going to say I wasn't. All right. There's times where I kind of deserved what I got. All right. So we all are going to experience karma in a multitude of ways. But and as a result, I was able to learn and refine myself and not be so much of a bitch. I still am a bitch now. I just know how to be a bitch and when to be a bitch and why I should be a bitch. Okay. But it made me more aware of my actions, what they did in reaction to it. Um, but I also understand that I've been misperceived and misunderstood. I mean, my Mercury is in Pisces. That tends to happen a lot. Um, so, and as a result, people have reacted to that misunderstanding and that misperception you know, misperception, and did whatever they felt like they thought I deserved. So this is why I'm also very careful and aware of trying to determine what I believe other people deserve. Um, because just like I can be misperceived, I can misperceive another person as well. And also at the end of the day, their relationship with energy, with their God within, and however that manifests is really not my business. Um, I was a blip in the radar of their lives, just like they are the blip in the radar of my life. So I only saw what they allowed me to see, just like they only saw of me what I allowed them to see. I didn't see everything. I saw a lot of things, but I didn't see everything. So it's not on me to determine how somebody else gets what they get. They're going to get whatever they get based on all of the factors I mentioned throughout this entire video. You focus on you. You focus on what you should get and what you should have, what your desires are, overcoming your desires, what your obstacles are, overcoming your obstacles. And I suggest meditation so that you can learn how to let it all go when it's all over and said and done with. I hope you were able to gain something from this talk on karma. I hope it was able to expand your knowledge or expand your perspective, because that's what we're here to do at the Gnostic Viewpoint. Um, if you are interested in getting a reading where I analyze your natal chart to see what your karma or your lessons may be, what it is that you incarnated for, to learn and to grow from in this life, feel free to order that. The information about that is in the description box. But until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful day, week, year, month, etc. Lifetime. And catch you next time. Peace.